You got those copies, Andrew? I will tell you I would rather be standing anywhere right now, but here with you folks is the last place I want to be standing. Last night at 6:22 p.m., we received a frantic call that a 3-year-old had shot themselves from a residence in the 2400 block of Nectarine. At approximately 6:29, our first deputy arrived on scene, Deputy Logan Daniels, who began to administer CPR to the 3-year-old. And it was obvious at that point in time that the 3-year-old had probably, it did expire. The 3-year-old was then transported by evac to Advent Health in DeLand, and our investigation was underway. There's some stuff that we can't tell you because the father of the 3-year-old is a state correctional officer. Therefore, there are things that I can't release about the family. I can tell you that the weapon that the 3-year-old got his hands on was stored in the nightstand next to the bed. It's a Canex 9mm firearm that was discharged once. The second firearm inside of the house was a Glock that was on top of the refrigerator. There is a safe in the bedroom. The safe is inoperable. So we're looking into how long that safe has been inoperable. What else am I missing here? DCF is clearly involved. There's parental supervision that has to be administered while they're with their other children. There were 3 children in the house. The sister who was watching them was 16, and there's another boy. The brother was 8, and the little guy was 3. The parents had left the house to go food shopping at Publix and left the 16-year-old in charge. And somehow, we don't know exactly how, but the little guy got into the bedroom, got into the drawer, and discharged the firearm once. From what we understand, the pounds per pressure to pull that trigger is about 4.6 pounds of pressure you need to pull the trigger back, whereas my gun, which is a revolver, you need 7 pounds of pressure to pull that off. This is a picture of the firearm that was used. There's questions about charging that you're going to get into. We're going to hand you copies of the law. When any minor child is accidentally shot by another family member, no arrest shall be made subject to this subsection prior to 7 days after the shooting. With any respect to any parent or guardian of the deceased minor, the investigating officer shall file all findings and evidence with the state attorney's office with respect to violations of this subsection. The state attorney shall evaluate such evidence and take the appropriate action. Then we have safe storage of firearms, which is section 790.174. And basically it says, shall keep the firearm in a secure locked box or container or in a location which a reasonable person would believe to be secure or shall secure with trigger locks, except if the person is carrying this firearm on his or her body. It is a misdemeanor of the 2nd degree when it comes to safe storage of firearms. We will, as we do with every case, we will investigate it and we will submit it to the state attorney's office to see where and when, if anything, is going to happen. I cannot imagine there's anything in the law books that can punish that family more than what happened last night. And if you listen to the 911 calls from the parents and from the 16-year-old, you know, my biggest concern out of all of this is the mental and physical health of my deputies and my dispatchers and the evac personnel that responded. You know, the officer, Logan Daniels, the deputy who got there first, she's our first, she graduated in our first academy class. And obviously you could see she's covered in blood. And then the officers, the deputies that responded, and then the 911 call takers and dispatchers that worked with that. So my concern is for their health and welfare. This was not easy.
Sheriff, was the weapon used by the 3-year-old, the state corrections officers?
He doesn't have, they don't issue the state folks weapons. Clearly, you have to say it, this should never have happened. This should not have happened. We should not be standing here having this conversation. My deputies and dispatchers should not be going through what they're going through. Clearly, for those first responders, this is going to be something that is career-altering and life-altering.
Sheriff, do you guys preliminarily have an idea what may have happened in the house?
What we're assuming is the parents go to Publix, leave the 16-year-old in charge, probably have done it 1,000,001 times. For some reason, and I don't know that reason, I don't know if we'll ever know that reason, the 3-year-old wandered into the bedroom and got into the end table. And when he got into the end table, he picked the gun out and he turned it toward himself and he shot himself point blank range.
Where was he shot?
Did you say, Sheriff, the lockbox didn't work?
The safe
For the safe.
is not working. Whether the batteries, we don't know why the safe isn't working or how long it hasn't been working. Obviously, that is a focal point of the investigation as to how long has the safe not worked for a year? Has it not worked for 5 days or 3 days or 2 days? Is it a battery issue? What is it? We don't know that yet. But that's something that we're working closely with the state attorney's office.
Does the officer say he traditionally keeps his weapons in the safe?
Traditionally, the weapons, this is, we're being told the weapons stay in the safe.
So one gun in the nightstand, one in the safe.
One gun in the nightstand, the gun that the little guy grabs, and the other gun was on top of the refrigerator. That was a Glock.
In all of your years in law enforcement, have you ever seen an accidental shooting with someone so young?
No. We were all talking about this, the command staff in the room before we came in here to see you, and probably in that room there's had to be 250 years of police experience, and we all said we have never seen anything like this. That's why I said we shouldn't be standing here. We shouldn't be. That family shouldn't feel the way they feel. It's just, it's heartbreaking. You sit there and listen to that 911 call, and the sister who's calling in. I mean, we were all 16 once. Did you watch your siblings while your younger ones while your parents ran to the store? Yeah. Who would have ever in a million years thought that would happen? But, there is a message here to all parents that own guns, and that message is if you have little ones, even if you have teenagers, you got to lock them up, man. You got to lock them up because you just don't know. Normally what we see is the teenager steals the gun from their parents or their grandparents, and then they use it in a crime. When you see somebody so young get a hold of that gun, and I'm not going to sound sexist here when I say this, but boys have a propensity to be fascinated with firearms. I was a son of a cop, and I was fascinated with my father's guns. Fascinated with them. I knew where they were. I knew how to get at them. I played with them. I knew how to unload them. I wore his holster. So, there's no doubt that he found that and he wanted to play with it.
I know you mentioned the 7-day rule. Are you expecting charges, or is that something you're even advocating for?
Right now, I don't think that's the least of my concern. Right now, my concern is for my deputies, my dispatchers, the evac personnel, and getting the family, because don't forget, you have an 8-year-old, you have a 16-year-old in that house, and even mom and dad. I mean, it's not like they killed this kid. I mean, this was a horrible, horrible act, of circumstances. So, like we do with anything else, the state attorney is on board with us, has been on board with us since the minute we notified them. There'll be an investigation, which is being done. The state attorney will look at the facts and circumstances and the totality of circumstances, and then they'll make a determination as to are they going to charge.
Sheriff, you say you cannot say much about the family, but is he a state county corrections where
State,
he works?
CCI. He's a lieutenant at CCI.
At Tomoka?
Yes.
Tomoka State Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff, you mentioned concern for your deputies who responded in dispatch. What support is available for them?
Yeah, so last night we did our peer groups that will debrief everybody. And we are in the process now of setting up individual interviews. They're actually mandated to be examined by a psychologist or a psychiatrist or psychologist that we have on staff. Not that we have on staff, we contract with them. And then based on that, they'll advise us what the next steps are. Do we put them in a non-patrol function? Do we continue with more counseling? The part that I think people don't understand with first responders is it's not necessarily the first 24 or 48 hours that you worry. It's the long-term effects. Because you may feel, I got this, but as time rolls on, and I could tell you I've been doing this 36 years, that there are 2 homicides that I worked that there are times, and I don't know why, I wake up in the middle of the night and see the victim. One was a 6-year-old and one was a woman who was out jogging, who was brutally raped and murdered. For some reason, I don't know why, all the murder scenes I've been to, those 2 stick with me and they wake you up years later in the middle of the night. So.
You said it takes 4.2 pounds of pressure.
4.6 pounds of pressure to pull that trigger. It's not a lot.
It's not a lot. And correct me if I'm wrong, was there a mandate that pistols had to have a certain amount of pounds?
I wouldn't be able to answer that. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody really even knows what this brand is. The CANIK is the brand of the firearm. So, I don't know.
What would you say to other families who might also have a safe at home that's not working right now and maybe have their gun somewhere it shouldn't be?
I would like to, and we're checking the legality of it, I would like them to listen to that 911 call. I would like to listen, have them hear the 16-year-old say, my brother shot himself but he's not breathing. And I think if you heard that, you would run out right now and buy a gun safe. Yes?
But there's this, I remember when you guys were at Daytona, you guys handed out trigger locks. So you don't need an expensive safe, per se.
You don't. It's your family's safety. Invest a couple bucks in your family. It's not the police's responsibility. It's not the sheriff's office's responsibility. It's your responsibility. If you're going to store guns in your house and you're going to have kids around, be responsible and get a mechanism that can lock the damn thing up.
Sheriff, I know there's some departments that pass out those trigger locks for free. Is there any here in Blue Chicago?
We've done it. We've done it. And did it work last night? No. So, again, you want to be a responsible gun owner, don't ask the government, the police, or the sheriff's office to supply these things. You want to own guns, go out and do the right goddamn thing so we don't have to deal with another 3-year-old shooting himself.
I know that there are certain rules that apply when you carry a weapon in a vehicle, Sheriff. Does that same rule apply to a home where you...
The law basically says if you're in your home, this is what safe storage of firearms required. Okay? Any person who stores or leaves on a premise under his or her control a loaded firearm and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is likely to gain access to the firearm without the lawful permission of the minor's parents or the person having charge of the minor or without supervision required by law shall keep the firearm securely locked box or a container in the location which a reasonable person would believe would be secure. This also applies to such as a trigger lock, except when the person is carrying the firearm on his or her body or within such close proximity that they can retrieve it and use it quickly. So we'll give everybody a copy of it. You can read what it says. And it's a misdemeanor of the 2nd degree to violate that subsection. Yes?
I have a question. What do you think about people without training about how to store safely firearms?
I don't think, I don't think you need to be trained. I think that's common sense. If you're going to store a firearm or firearms in your home and you have children, lock them up.
Yeah, but not everybody has common sense.
Right.
So in that case,
there's nothing I can't train you what to do. How many people have firearms in their homes? How many? Everybody has firearms. If you can't you're an anomaly. But people who have them, lock them up. I mean, it's you don't need to be trained. And it's a shame you have to even think that, but you have kids in your house.
But don't you think that this case like this could happen again if a lot of people without training could access to a firearm?
It happens. I don't know what training is going to do. I can't, that means I have to train you as a parent on how to make sure your kids do their homework, how their kids brush their teeth, how they cross the street. You're a parent, you have guns in your home, lock them up. That's my training to you. Lock them up.
So you are agreeing with this bill that is on the table and the.
This has, listen, we're not going down that rabbit hole. What I'm here to talk about is, we had a 3-year-old who got hold of a firearm and accidentally killed himself,
Do
okay?
you agree with this bill? So,
What bill?
The bill that proposed that people without training can.
I don't know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
It's a bill, on the table.
Okay, listen, right now, we're worried about a 3-year-old, the family, and my deputies. I'm not going to get into the gun debate.
Can you name the model of the gun again?
It's at CANIK 9mm.
But don't a lot of guns like that, Sheriff, have that same powder pressure thing? I mean,
That is a ballistics question for somebody who understands ballistics, and I can't tell you that, what it is. I can't tell you that.
Sheriff, that's a picture of the actual gun?
That is a picture of the actual firearm. I'm not trying to give you a hard way to go, I'm just here stating what's going on.
Sheriff, for those who may not, not be too familiar with firing guns, how would you equivalent that kind of pressure? Is it just a simple flick? Like
I would tell you it's just very easy squeeze. And obviously, and sadly, it was easy enough for a 3-year-old to pull the trigger. So think about, for all of us who have little ones, how much pressure, or how strong is a 3-year-old to be able to make that move. And I can't tell you, we don't know this yet. Did this 3-year-old use both thumbs? Did he use one finger? I don't know.
It was loaded, presumably, I mean, with one.
It was there was a round in the chamber, clearly. He didn't rack it. I mean, he just picked it up and put it to his face and was probably looking down it. He's 3.
Is that something you'd even be able to determine?
I don't know. I don't know. Our guys are looking into a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things they won't be able to answer, or some things that they can answer. So you guys good? Everybody got a copy of the law? Okay. Thank you.